Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Bixby with Energy Into It, and I'm excited. I'm psyched to be here today. We are meeting. I have an exciting guest today, Dr. Suzanne Manser, and we are psyched to come to you here today and talk to you about what goes on in both of our practices. We thought this would be a really fun way to kind of compare notes on similarities and differences between a psychic medium and a psychologist. Without further ado, I'll introduce Suzanne Manser. Hey, Suzanne.
Hey, Angela, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for being here.
I'm so excited for these conversations.
Me too. Such a great way to connect and really help people. I know we'll tell the audience a little bit here that when we talked about this project, we decided we wanted to kind of pull the curtain back a little bit in both of our types of practices and talk about similarities and differences because there are so many similarities and differences. So I'm Angela Bixby. I've been a psychic medium, consciousness mentor, and intuitive channel for the last 15 years. It's a second career for me, and I love doing this work. My main goal of this work, my biggest mission here, is to help as many people connect to their intuition as possible. I see our intuition and our psychic skills as a really valuable set of skills that we all have access to, and we're all waking up and remembering them now at this crazy time on the planet. And so I love to talk about things that might help clients understand what other clients are going through, patients in your case, how they seek out services and support of themselves. And so I know that you and I have, similar missions with wanting to help people. So that's sort of why I'm here. What brings you here today, Suzanne?
So, I am a clinical psychologist. I've been practicing since the mid 90s. And as stupid as it sounds, I'm trying to find like a more interesting way to say, like, I really like helping people, but I really like helping people.
Woohoo!
And in the last 3 decades, I've collected and created and curated so many insights and tools and strategies, and just ways of thinking and perspectives that I want to share with as many people as possible. And so in my practice, obviously that's the aim, is to be as helpful for people as possible in improving their relationships with themselves, improving their relationship with their life, being able to show up for themselves and in their life in their full, like, true, authentic, embodied self, because that's how you get the most out of life. Um, and then, these conversations with you, we've known each other for 7 years, I think, a little bit more.
Yes,
Um,
joyfully
and
so.
and hearing about your, and and knowing from my perspective your work, and knowing from my perspective my work, I think it's going to blow people's minds how similar our work is, how different too, but how similar it is. And I just think that that's going to be super, super interesting to talk about.
Agreed. Gosh, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad we're doing this.
Me
Yay.
too. Me too.
And yay. And so, yes, we're calling it Psyched, the series Psyched, because we're both psyched to be here. And we're both psyched to talk to you about our respective practices and how we help people. So our aim really is to bring forward information that's helpful for you guys, our audiences, as best that we can. So we're going to talk through a few things today, just kind of some more intro stuff and maybe kind of get to know you conversation for you guys so that we can start to shine lights on how our practices are similar and different. And we're really open to any topics that you guys would like to hear us talk about in the future. So feel free to drop comments down below or to send either of us a message, either to Suzanne's channel. She's Dr. Suzanne Manser, or Energy Into It, my channel for Angela Bixby, because we'd love to have conversations that are fun for you guys to witness and hear about, and maybe ask some questions that you've always wanted to know. We'd love to bring that kind of content to you. So that's what's in store for everyone here. Please be as involved as you would like to be. We'd love to hear from you guys. So let's start a little bit with the similarities and differences. Let me see. Let me ask it this way, Suzanne. Tell me about the humans who you get to help in your practice. Like, what do your patients look like?
So, yeah, so my specialties as a psychologist are eating disorders and anxiety. So I work with people who struggle with body image and eating disorders and food and all of that sort of thing. And then people who struggle with all the forms of anxiety. And then I see lots of other people as well. So I see adults aged 18 and up. You know, I've seen the
Hmm.
whole age range, people in their 80s. And what I find in terms of commonalities, although they're often coming for specific symptom profiles or, you know, an issue in their lives, the commonality that exists among most of the people that I work with is this broken is too strong of a word, but
Hurting, perhaps?
hurting relationship with themselves, that it's
Mm.
not, they're not fully aligned with themselves. They're not um, they don't fully accept themselves. There's a lot of judgment going along, a lot of judgment going on, a lot of I shoulds, I'm not enough, I should be this, I should be that. Anyway,
Mm.
so a lot of the work, regardless of the reasons that people come in, is really about this foundational work of building your relationship with yourself, accepting yourself, having compassion for yourself. And for me, man, if I could, you know, give that piece to everybody that I work with and everybody gets to walk away with that, that is one of the most healing pieces that I think anybody could give themselves is just self-acceptance. And so for my work, that's a big piece. And then I'm really, really excited to at some point talk about my experience with you,
Mhm.
because my work with you, as you know, I've been in your program for 7 years, my self-acceptance through your work has been enormous and incredible and mind-blowing. So that's, I know, a piece of work that you do, but I just really want to kind of put a plug in there. Um,
Thank you.
for that you get to that you obviously spread that tool and that piece as well, and I really, really
Mhm.
appreciate that.
That's beautiful. Thank you for saying that. It's such an
Yeah.
honor. I don't think about my work and that I help people with self-acceptance. I don't think about it through that lens. So I really, really appreciate hearing that from you. Thank you. Thank you. And what beautiful
Yeah.
humans you get to help in your practice in all of the ways that you do. And I love that you've distilled it a bit to that, right? That's sort of the common theme that you see is it kind of comes down to self-acceptance for a lot of people that make their way to you. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, I learned so much from you, from all of your content. You are a wealth of knowledge with your 30-year career. I love that you are
Thank
sharing
you.
all of this with people and sharing it freely so that people can benefit from all of this stuff, especially at this time. You know, it's a really hard time in the economy and on the planet. We're recording in January of 2026, so we're with you guys. It's pretty current here. And we all would agree, I think, that we're in some challenging times. So I love how you help people with all that you offer with your resources and such and your
Thank you.
knowledge. Sure. Yeah, it's interesting to hear you talk about it. So, generally speaking, I'm going to jump into the humans that I get to help.
Hmm.
Generally speaking, when people land in my practice, it's different from therapy in that they usually just come for one reading or one session, right? And then they might come back for other sessions or subsequent sessions on the same topics and things. But it's a little bit more, it's not so much one and done, but it's like they might come in for a session. It's different than therapy in that way where they're coming to you for a series of sessions and might work with you over time on something. So, but what brings them forward to me a lot is really going through probably similar things that you deal with less diagnostic specificity for me because I am not a clinician, have not ever been, in spite of my undergrad degree and master's certificate in holistic psychology, have never been a therapist, a clinician, do not claim to be, will not claim to be. Want to be really clear with everybody on that. And it's an honor to sit here with a clinical psychologist and have this
Thank you.
conversation because she's equipped as she's trained, she's certified as that. So making it clear that I'm not. But so people will come to me and it might be different things in their life. They may have lost someone since I'm a medium and they'll feel ready to kind of move through next levels of grief, connect with people on the other side. You know, so I have a lot of clients that'll come for that. And at every point in the last 15 years since I've had this practice, I sit back and review and reflect upon how people do find their way to me and how I can help them. And it's often about love life, work. You know, they're real common human themes that bring people to me. And, you know, sessions and things, the work we do go in a lot of different directions. One of the things that I love about the honor that I have of working with people in this way and clients coming to me and having me, you know, dig in psychically into their business in the ways that I do, their personal affairs and things is what I mean by that, is man, I get to meet a lot of really cool people. And I get to reassure people often that they're not alone. You can imagine that people might choose to come to a psychic for something that maybe they're not ready to bring to therapy in some cases, because they kind of know it's a way to dip their toe in the water and they're going to kind of get it from a different angle than they might from a therapist, even if they know what they really want to work on in therapy. And so, people kind of come in excitedly and they're just kind of curious what'll come up. And it's a lot of times it's a lot of that reassurance, that they're normal and that they have really common experiences to lots of other humans and they're not alone. And so a lot of that comes out of it. And people call me jokingly all the time a psychic therapist. So as much as I renounce that I am not a clinician, people still offer me that a lot. So I know that there's care and nurturing and how we connect and that benefits people.
Totally. And, you know, I, in preparation for this conversation, I was thinking about your work and my work, your work as far as I know it anyway, and just thinking about the degree to which we each connect to our guts, our intuition. Obviously,
Hmm.
for you, that's the
Hmm.
whole ball of wax, or a big piece of it. For me, and what I think you've actually helped me with, and I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, but I really want to say this because
Go
it's on
for
my
it.
mind at this moment. I was using the word self-acceptance, and I think that's accurate. But I think more specifically, what you've helped me with, and I imagine what you help all these other people with, is self-trust.
Mm.
And and that is for me, that's been a self-trust and self-acceptance has been just a huge lifelong process and journey. And when I came to you, or the way that I work with you is not a one and done reading, but it's in
Right.
the CPP program, the Conscious Psychic program, and so I've been learning through these last 7 years how to be in touch with my own spirituality, my own psychicness, my own intuition. Um, and in doing that, because I came to you with no understanding of any of that, I feel like I've been forced to almost trust myself, but I have had to trust myself and trust that these experiences that I'm having that have been like mind blowing are real, are coming in part from me, and that I can trust that intuition is going to be there, that it's not,
Mm.
transient,
Hmm.
and that I can access it and that I can count on it. And that has been, I'm going to get teary. That's been like a really huge piece of my growth since I've known you. And so I certainly hope to be able to give that to my patients as
Mm.
well, the ability for them to start trusting themselves. But that is a huge piece of what I have gained from my work with you. So I just want to put that out there.
Thank you. Thank you. I can hear
Yeah.
angels going, ah. And if we had sound effects, I'd be doing crowd going, ah, noises too. That is so beautiful. Thank you. Wholly receiving that. I'm really, really happy for you. I love that self-trust. One of the ways that, especially people that have gone through the conscious psychic program, where you and I have spent a lot of time together in the last 7 years, and thank you for mentioning that too and sharing that with our audience. Program's near and dear to my heart. As you know, I've been running it for the last 14 years and I love it. I love what goes on there and the women that choose to enroll and do the work of building that self-trust. What a lot of people report is that they gained confidence in all areas of their life. And so I
Mhm.
love the languaging that you bring forward of self-trust because I think that that's at the heart of their confidence that they share and express too, of what you're alluding to. And it's so true, man. Our intuition, we all have it. Most of the sessions, most of the clients that come to me for, a single session, they'll say, I knew that when I tell them what answer I'm getting for them or what response I'm getting from spirit for them. And they'll say, oh, this is just so affirming. And I think that's beautiful. And I think those readings can be some of the best readings where there aren't huge surprises coming out of the blue, but more they knew it already. And it helps to build that self-trust and self-acceptance in them and that confidence and that trust in their intuition, just as you so eloquently epitomized, So yeah, I'm glad, really, really happy to hear that that's a gift that you've experienced over the years in this work.
Yeah, and I hope that as you talk about, who are the humans that come to see you and who are the humans that come to see me, I'd be curious if anybody who came to see you had in mind that they were wanting to work on self-trust. I appreciate that that might not be, again, the way that they frame it.
Hmm.
Um, but the connection which now seems obvious as I'm saying it out loud, but the connection between intuition and self-trust is obviously, I think, so close, um, that it's just a really, and because it's so different than the way I work in my practice, it's a really um, organic, authentic way to get to self-trust,
Well
the work that you
said.
do.
Gosh, I love that. Thank you, Suzanne. A
Yeah.
gift in our conversation that I didn't know was coming. That's beautiful. Thank you. It's
Yeah.
true. I mean, you know how much I love intuition and to talk about this stuff, but it's true. I'll be honest with you. In our audience, it took me many years to trust my own intuition for myself after becoming a professional, right? So I would still, and I still do sometimes, go to a different reader or ask for a different, ask different guides, spirit guides for different perspectives, or a colleague, clinician. I'll take something hard to them because the way that I describe it is we all have an inherent emotional bias about how we would like things to turn out, especially for ourselves and those that are really closest to us. And so I find that those can be the hardest situations for us to have that self-trust and to really, it took me a long time to trust that in myself. Like I said, I double check it with other people a lot. And so I just want to share that with everyone to say that this is not a quick process. If you don't feel like you trust yourself or your intuition, you are not alone. The way that we've all been raised in our society and culture is to not believe these skills and to deny these skills. And the reality is that we all have them and we all have access to them. And the more that we trust our intuition, the more that we'll trust ourselves. And the more that we trust ourselves, the more that we'll trust our intuition. So it is a really beautiful process. Yeah. I can see where you're encouraging that in your own patients too. Um, yeah. Do you have some of that too with them in terms of you helping to build that with them from reflecting back to them simply?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think with the patients who come to see me, depending on what they're working on, there's often an element of, me offering them tools and strategies for, how do you deal with these particular thoughts or these particular feelings, etc.
Mhm.
Um, on the other side, there's always this foundational element that I'm building up of, or I'm helping them build up of self-trust and self-acceptance. And um, sometimes it's just the consistency of showing up. Like oftentimes I'll have people who come and they're like, didn't really want to come today, or
Mhm.
not really sure what I'm going to talk about. And they're feeling like a little resistance, a little out of sorts. And if we just allow ourselves to trust the process and not force it, it's always so interesting what comes out of those sessions because those are the sessions where there's always something, kind of down there that's just waiting to come out, but it's a little scary or it's a little something. And so the person feels it as resistance. But once you start being willing to sit with the discomfort, and I know that's a topic that we're gonna get to at some point, but
Mhm.
once my patients start sitting with the discomfort, anybody probably starts sitting with discomfort, that's how you learn to trust yourself,
Mhm.
that you can tolerate discomfort, that it's actually valuable in some instances to do that. Um, and yeah, and that you can make it through. I think the idea that I can't make it through, whatever that means in that moment, is so scary for people. And so going to you or going to me for guidance about, please give me something I can hold on to. Um, and I know you and I both give them tools of some sort, but also this deeper self-trust, which I think is the really big win.
Huge. Yes, agreed. Yeah. Whew. Really good stuff. I'm going to shift gears a little bit here. So I have lots of occasions in my practice where I'll be working with a client in a session and they'll be asking me questions about a situation, their life, a relationship, a work relationship, sort of any of the human topics that we address in psychic readings. They're all pretty normal and pretty common, as I've already said. And I'll have something come up to me that indicates that it would be a really good idea for them to work with a therapist. And I don't hesitate. I say to them, listen, I am not a therapist, but some of what I'm picking up or what I'm being told indicates this. And again, it's very rare that that has been a surprise to my clients when I've recommended that to them. And so I think that, like I said earlier, sometimes it might feel more comfortable for them to like, let me just go talk to this person, see what they see in my energy, see if I really need to go work on this. And so, I try to norm that process for them too. Hey, and this is the thing that I'm sensing coming up. Does that make sense to you? I pride myself on I'm very direct. And yet, of course, I don't want to do harm or hurt someone. So I'm not sort of diving headlong into people's traumas that they may or may not be aware of. We speak about it in a way that's safe and comfortable for them, but direct enough for me to say, hey, and that seems like it would love to have some, work with a therapist if you want to jump into that. And that's up to them whether they do that or not. But I do my best to really kind of tag that and flag that for clients and send them in that direction. And I've referred many clients that live proximal to me to local resources too. So a lot of people have stigmas about both of our fields. And so I feel like when I do that, I help your field. And I imagine when, people have been comfortable in therapy, they feel there's less stigma in coming to me too. Yeah. How about you? When do you have occasion to refer patients out for different services and things if it's outside of your scope?
Yeah, well, certainly I refer within the mental health field probably every day, to a medication provider or to a group therapist or a family therapist or couples therapist, something like that.
Mhm.
Because I work with folks with eating disorders, I do a lot of referring to dietitians as well, and facilities that work with people in acute struggle. But all of that aside, I think maybe speaking more to what you're talking about, I also refer, maybe not specifically, like I can't think of a time when I've said, go see this particular person, but I will
Mhm.
refer to, um, I think maybe an energy practice might be useful to consider, like doing some Reiki, going to see a psychic, going to, any of the sound baths, like any of, there's so many, I live in Portland, Oregon. I'm sure there are everywhere, but there are so many really cool, interesting pieces of intuitive work and energy work that happen here in all different formats that are just so interesting to me. So
Mhm.
anyway, so I've referred people to all these different things, and it's interesting because I have had Reiki only like once or twice myself.
Mhm.
It just happens that way. I've not been to a sound bath, for example. So I am careful about how I refer or suggest people. I say, like, here's my understanding of this. Sounds like it could be useful to you. Maybe go do some
Mhm.
research about it, talk to some other people and see what you think. But it
Mhm.
is a little tricky because oftentimes those are formats that I don't have a ton of experience with. And so I do feel like I have to be a little bit careful in how I frame it as a recommendation.
Absolutely. Yeah, understandable. Really cool. I love to hear that. You're right. I forget that we have it everywhere. You're right, but you've probably got a lot of it on the West Coast and in Portland. And now I'm kind of salivating, like, oh, I need to go to Portland and have some of those services because it does sound fun. Yeah, again, we can talk about that on a future episode. But woman, you need to get to a sound bath. You will love it.
I know. I really want to do Reiki. I really want to do all this stuff. There's just not enough time.
I
But
know.
yes, I
I
do.
know. It's good stuff. Very cool. I love hearing that you help your patients in those ways. And the trickiness, because you're also bound by your professional ethics and your license. And so there's extra layers of care and caution that are inherent in that, that are great, that keep everybody safe. So I understand that in terms of how you refer and all of that. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
But it is, I mean, just like you're saying, our whole goal is to make sure people get what they need.
Hmm.
And in my profession as a psychologist, I am bound to refer if somebody could be potentially helped by medication, for example.
Hmm.
It is my ethical and legal responsibility to refer out. And so, um, and I believe in all of these things I'm referring to, even if I'm not super, super familiar with them myself. But as you're saying, like I do have to be a little bit careful about um, stating the kind of benefits that might be gained from
Hmm.
a certain kind of format.
Hmm. Understood. And I've learned a lot from your industry. Because I too, when I've had a couple of odd situations come through my office, where clients decided to take themselves off of their mental health medications before they came to see me and then talk to me about that. And I said to them verbally that that was unsafe, and I'm not a psychiatrist and I can't rubber stamp that. And then I followed it up with an email to try to have something in writing to really give them that second message and let them know that it's important that they get the care that they need. So yeah, I appreciate tangentially being able to lean into a lot of the professional ethics that have been set up, the systems that set up have been set up and these systems of care, even though my industry doesn't have those, we're really pretty
Hmm.
devout of that kind of stuff. So I try to be my best and be my most ethical in that way too, considering how you guys do things and taking a page out of your books. So thank you to your industry for that. Have you seen changes in why patients will come to you from before 2020 and then since 2020? Because you and I have talked a lot off camera about really how
Mm.
much has changed in the last 6 years, and we're in these transformational 20s. So I'm curious if you've looked at it more longitudinally and if you see differences in your patients from 2020 forward and 2020, before 2020.
Yeah, there's an interesting, I mean, I think the concept of, people, or at least some people got really comfortable in their homes and really comfortable kind of not being out in the world. And so the idea of, there's still people that I'm talking to, here it is almost 6 years later, just leaving their homes on a regular basis and just kind of re-engaging with the world. And so in general, I think I was one of those people, I really loved being home. I was
Me
happy to
too.
not have to leave the house. Like that was good for me.
Ah.
So it took me a couple years to be fully back in the office and all that. So there's definitely some of that. But I will say the one thing that is really interesting to me that I'm seeing a lot of and have been for the past 5 years is this concept of discomfort in being perceived.
Mm,
And I'm curious if that's something that you hear a lot about too, but I don't remember ever hearing that phrase, and maybe I did, but I don't remember ever hearing that phrase from my patients prior to 2020. But now there's a lot about just I'm out in the world and people are perceiving me, and that's very uncomfortable because there's an assumption about judgment and an assumption about who you should be. And it just feels like there is not enough of a boundary, and not enough of a private space. So I think I mean, again, so much came from the pandemic of 2020, but I think just the concept that people felt so safe from what other people might be thinking about them, and now having to be seen and perceived is really painful for a lot of people, and they're not quite figuring out how to get their grounding, if that makes sense.
hmm Wow. Yeah, no, this I understand completely what you're saying, and I have not had any of my clients talk about it in that way to me. And I relate because I feel myself more anxious when I started my emergence after a couple of years back out into the world in the ways that I did. So I relate to what you're saying, and I can understand that people are talking about this and sort of bringing it to your doorstep. It's interesting. It feels like this is a direction I didn't think we'd go, but so I see some of that. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I see some of that, the discomfort and being perceived in one of my grandsons who's likely autistic, very neurodivergent. And so I understand what you're talking about, just kind of that social, it's just socially weird. I said for a year or two, like everybody's just socially weird since 2020 or awkward. I don't mean to judge anybody,
Hmm.
but like we're all just, it just feels different reemerging and being around people. So I think that I love that you languaged it, the discomfort being perceived, because I haven't had language for it. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And it's something, yeah, that I've been talking about with my sons for a while. But it also reminds me of what, people that do have more neurodivergent traits go through. And it's almost like a lot of us are gaining those sensations since 2020. And while it's awkward and it's hard for all the reasons you just described and what patients are landing in your office for and such, I have to think that it's for good reason. And there's a lot going down, like being broken down about being human
Hmm.
is part of what I think we're kind of witnessing, which is part of why I wanted to ask the question, because we are, 6 years out now from the COVID start. And there's a lot that's changed, you know, as you said.
Yeah.
The one way that I would say my client base and client population has changed since 2020 is that I've seen a huge increase of people really taking their spirituality more seriously and a lot of people going through spiritual awakenings. So the topic sometimes that people land in my office for, my proverbial office, I work all online on Zoom, are about spiritual expansion and things like that. And I didn't have as much of that before 2020. I had some of that, but I've seen a huge uptick in that, and then also a decrease in some people being as concerned with things like their careers. I've just seen sort of like it seems like a little bit of a global shift in values and what people are choosing to kind of dig in deeply to. It's more about themselves than it is about maybe furthering their career. In a lot of cases, not in all cases. So yeah, I've seen a couple changes like that.
Do you have a sense of whether that for them was because they just got so used to their own company during that time versus like having to feeling that they were facing their mortality or, fear of non-existence?
I feel like it was a little bit less of that for a lot of my patient population and more perhaps there were people that didn't think to I'm going to go here too. Didn't think to not trust the government before 2020, just for
Oh,
all of the reasons, right? Because
mm-hmm,
a lot of people felt controlled by what went on, right?
mm-hmm.
You and I were really comfortable in our introvert nature being in our homes for a long time. But I think a lot of people, it was sort of more about seeing through the systems in a new way versus feeling as much psychologically about the separation from society. At least that's the lens that I looked at it through. Is
Mm-hmm.
that's how I've been kind of perceiving it. I've witnessed more of people just going, "Wow, I thought this and that was going to be the path and the way," and turns out all kinds of things can happen in life and things can just change. So I feel like it's been more existential for individuals, but around systems
That makes
versus,
total sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, good. I'm glad that made sense.
Yeah.
Fascinating walk being a human, hey?
Yeah. Maybe someday we can get back to it just made me think about like now that some people have lost some trust in the government or
Mhm.
general government, I wonder what that does with self-trust. Maybe we can have a conversation someday about that. That'd be interesting.
Well, you are doing an interesting project right now, the self-reclamation project. How does that feather into that project for you? Please tell us about that, Suzanne.
Well, thank you for bringing that
Sure.
up. So I did just start this. It's called the Self-Reclamation Project. It's a monthly membership. It's an online thing where, um, so in obviously my work, I'm trying to help people, give people tools and help people really accept themselves because that's where self-embodiment comes from and self-empowerment. And then I wrote this book and it reached a bigger audience, and that was really exciting. And so now I'm just in this phase of like, how can I get this information to as many people as possible? And so that's where the self-reclamation project came from. Is so each month we're going to work on a different theme. The first 2 months are healing your inner child, and then it's reclaiming yourself, and then it's transforming your life, and then we start over with new material. And so we're in the one of the inner healing your inner child pieces. And was your question about self-trust? I totally forgot the question. Sorry.
No, that's totally cool.
Like,
You're
okay,
speaking.
I can talk for hours, but
Uh,
wait a minute. What was
yeah,
your
no, you're
question?
speaking to a menopausal woman who understands losing threads in my mind very, very much so. I was wondering how the self-reclamation project reinforced self-trust.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So the whole thing hopefully is going to reinforce self-trust, but the work that we're doing right now on connecting with our inner child and validating her and giving her love,
Mhm.
essentially, for me, that is kind of the whole point of that work is building self-trust,
Mhm.
is acknowledging that there's a part of you that is kind of still stuck in your childhood, still hurting in the way that you hurt when you were a kid, showing up for that part of you, being consistent to show it, consistently showing up for that part of you, and through that relationship, starting to heal that part of you. If you
Mhm.
can see that process and start that process, to me, that is self-trust. That is, I am, you have to be able to trust the kid part of you and trust the adult part of you by the end of the process. Um, so anyway, I'm diverging a little bit, but with each healing the inner child, reclaiming yourself, transforming your life, each of those pieces is going to be some form of building self-trust. And it's really about um, getting to know yourself and learning to trust what you know about you rather than what your parents told you about you when you were a kid or treated you about you when you were a
Mhm.
kid. So hopefully that answered
Beautiful.
the question a little bit
Oh, completely. What I might,
disjointedly.
yeah, no, not disjointedly at all. Thank you. What I might reflect back to is it sounds like the self-reclamation project is a bit of a roadmap for self-trust and
Yeah, yeah,
self-acceptance and ultimately self-trust, right?
yeah. I
Which
actually
I
hadn't thought about
love.
it that way, but
Yeah, it's like that's what you guys are doing. You're helping them walk through that. What it brought up for me hearing about it a little bit is that I have I have less patience for when I teach people, right, about their intuition. I'm like, well, just do the thing. Sometimes I'm like that. Just do the thing. But you are really breaking down the steps and holding their hand, so to speak, and walking
Mhm.
them through how to do the thing and doing it together in this project, which I love. And that's so often what people are looking for from both of us in different ways when they come to us to work with us. So yeah, well done. I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
sure you guys
you.
are having fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even tell you. I'm so excited about it, and I'm in the process of creating, the first year's worth of material, and it's just, for me, it's creative, and it's really getting to touch, like I'm really getting to use all of the tools and information and insights that I have here and offer them. And so, yeah, anyway, I could go on, but it is very exciting.
Yay, you guys go sign up for the Self-Reclamation Project with Suzanne and her
Yay!
channel. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, sure. Well, this has been an absolute joy, Suzanne. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience before we close?
You know, I, Not really, except to say that again, when you brought this idea of these conversations to me, I am so excited to share the ways that we can help people, but I am also equally excited to blow people's minds because, as you said, both of our professions come with stigma. And
Mhm,
when I first met you, I had never talked to a psychic, didn't really believe in it, didn't know a
mhm,
thing about the spiritual world. Like it was
mhm,
all kind of fantasy to me.
mhm,
And through my work with you, I am no longer in that space. My mind has been blown, and I now have this toolbox is much too small of a word, but for lack of a better word, toolbox, a brand new, huge, enormous toolbox to help myself and support myself that I didn't have before. And I'm so excited to continue to have these conversations and people who are comfortable with psychology but maybe not comfortable with the psychic world, I think their mind is going to be blown in a particular way, and people who are comfortable in the psychic world but not so comfortable in my world, I think their mind is going to be blown in a particular way. So
mhm.
I'm just really, really excited to come back and continue to talk, I guess.
Woohoo! I love that. I agree. So we'll have to put one of those. I think that's great. Talk about the stigmas and things maybe for our next episode in this series. That sounds like fun.
Be great.
Beautiful. Would you like to remind our viewers and listeners how they can find more about you if they want to go check you out, get on your mailing list, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm YouTube and TikTok at Dr. Suzanne Manser. I've got a website that I think is Suzanne Manser PhD. And then if you Google the Self-Reclamation Project, you can find it there. And all of those places have places for you to sign up and join my mailing list and find out all the things that I do and offer.
Wonderful. May lots and lots of people find you and the beautiful work that you
Yeah,
do.
thank you.
You guys can find information out about me on my website, energyintuit.com. I'll post a link for both of our sites, and the details of where you can find us, our social handles and things below, also in the notes. And you can certainly message us both here on YouTube as well. It's been a joy to be here talking to you today, Suzanne, and for the audience, it's been a joy to do this with and for you all. And we look forward to hearing what you'd like to hear us talk about in future episodes. Thank you for being here with us, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Angela.
Thank you, Suzanne.